But the buck stops here. We've got to clean up the system. We're not paying $200 million for housekeeping anymore a year. We're not going to pay for illegal immigrants in states that are submitting those claims. Why should people living in Mississippi or Texas or Florida be paying for illegal immigrants getting health care in California? Yeah. As a nation, we need to be aligned to make this work.
We are not cutting Medicaid in this package. There's a lot of misinformation out there about this, Jake. The numbers of Americans who are affected are those that are entwined in our work to eliminate fraud, waste, and abuse. And what do I mean by that? You got more than 1.4 million illegal aliens on Medicaid. Medicaid is not intended for non-U.S. citizens. It's intended for the most vulnerable populations of Americans, which is pregnant women and young single mothers, the disabled, the elderly. They are protected in what we're doing because we're preserving the resources for those who need it most. You're talking about 4.8 million able-bodied workers, young men, for example, who are on Medicaid and not working. They are choosing not to work when they can. That is called fraud. They are cheating the system. When you root out those kinds of abuses, you save the resources that are so desperately needed by the people who deserve it and need it most.
Joining me now is Natalie Winters, White House correspondent for Steve Bannon's War Room and for ourselves. Natalie, it's great to see you. Now, this can only be characterized as great news, superb news from the White House. This is that the House Republicans have managed to pass what Donald Trump calls his big, beautiful bill. Here was the moment in the House.
On this vote, the yeas are 215, the nays are 214, with one answering present. The bill is passed.
So clearly, Natalie, a major victory, but what does it actually mean to America and to the White House?
Sure. So there are certainly victories included in the big, beautiful bill, whether it's tamping down on the Green New Deal, a lot of the superfluous spending. Under Joe Biden, we saw substantive Medicaid and Social Security reform. But I think some of the MAGA diehards, perhaps the sort of Bannon War Room audience, there's room for more in terms of the desire, the appetite to cut waste, fraud, and abuse, something that would be called rescission, which is what you're seeing now, a lot of calls for after this bill gets passed, essentially codified by the Senate, that you would then see legislation introduced to codify a lot of the cuts introduced by DOGE. But right now, what you're seeing back and forth is a lot of efforts to hold the line to make sure that the bill, when it actually is passed out of the Senate, that it only gets better and not worse, and that there's not not any more special interests from lobbyists or tacked on unnecessary spending onto the bill.